I wish you bluebirds in the spring to hear your song, a song to sing, and then a kiss. More than this, I wish you love.
Welcome to the Forgiveness Solution. I'm your host, Reverend Misty Tyme. I cannot be more excited about what I have to share with you today. But before we get started, if you need to find me, go to revmisty.com. Also, don't forget good old Facebook. I'm Reverend Misty Tyme. I can't wait to hear from you. Well, today on the Forgiveness Solution, like I said, I couldn't be happier. I felt like I had to pinch myself when I started talking to this wonderful, wonderful woman. It's Dr. Shawne Duperon, and I have been following her for over a year or so, and her work is groundbreaking, and not only because we both love forgiveness. Dr. Shawne, can you say hi?
Oh, hey, Reverend Misty, thank you so much for having me. I'm so tickled.
Oh, well, and I want to grow up to be you, though we're the same age. So
you are
also,
so sweet.
Also, I want to talk about all the amazing things you've done. I mean, not just Project Forgive, and we are going to dig deep into that. But I want our listeners to know that you're a 6-time Emmy winner. You make movies. You've done so many wonderful things. You do leadership talks and seminars, everything all over the world. So your knowledge, both in business and corporations, and then forgiveness is just, you're there to change the world. I can't thank you enough. And your documentary that's coming out in 2017 on PBS, correct?
Correct. At least that's what I think. You know, it's so fun when you're in this forgiveness game. You kind of go with the flow, and so many crazy fun things are going on. It looks like it'll be on PBS. I don't know for sure, but it could be somewhere else because we're negotiating some stuff.
Oh, well, I just finished writing a book. What I thought would take me no time at all was a good year and a half. So I can relate to all of that for sure. But as we get started, let's really talk about, I love the fact that you're a PhD in gossip. Oh my goodness, as a female, don't mean to pick on girls, but wow, that just sounds juicy.
Oh, it's so fun. And my expertise is actually in communication with an emphasis in gossip. And gossip is usually in that realm of interpersonal communication. And usually when you think gossip, you think mean and nasty. Isn't that what usually comes up?
Well, of course.
Yeah. And the research shows that is not the case whatsoever, that mean, nasty stuff is only about 5 to 7%. We're actually really good people. And good gossip or word of mouth is the best way to generate something. And as a matter of fact, it says a lot about a word where it comes from. And the word gossip comes from the word God sib, meaning close to God.
Oh, well, that warms this Reverend's heart. I'm an interfaith Reverend. I'm an interfaith Reverend, and I really believe God shows up all over the world just exactly how God is supposed to show up. And I might have to take that. I might have to use that little God said thing.
You are welcome to. And it's so funny. When I heard that, it sealed the deal for me to have an expertise in it. And what would happen in like the 8th, 9th, and 10th centuries, the doulas would be delivering babies. And they were called God sibs because they'd spread the precious news that a child of God was born.
Okay.
Isn't that cool?
My heart is like full. So also, when you talk about interpersonal relationships, where gossip kind of comes into play, that's also where people get their feelings hurt and where misunderstandings happen. And that's where forgiveness kind of comes in. Is that how you tripped onto forgiveness?
There's many paths to this one. Most folks that spend any time with me know I'm an incest survivor, and I talk about it so freely and very openly. And I spend a lot of time in corporations around communication training with the highest skill set of media training. And when leaders start taking risks, they're going to screw up, especially in that high skill set of like going on CNN or whatever. And so it became really important to incorporate taking risks as a leader and what is the game, how are you forgiving yourself so you don't keep repeating the same conflict over and over and over, because I bet that you're one of those people, too, that thinks you keep doing the same thing over and over till you get the lesson. And, so I would love to get the lesson quicker so we don't have as much suffering and pain. You know?
Well, I love to talk about Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. Dorothy had the power the whole time to go home. She did not know she had the power until she ran into the Tin Man and the Scarecrow and the flying monkeys and the witches. And she could have saved herself a lot of time the first time around. But she had to go through those lessons and learn them over and over and over again, that she had the power. And we all have the power, but we tend to trip up over and over again.
You are spot on. You are spot on. And the game is, how do you move from that, that fear space, which I have a different perception around fear than most, and be able to stay more in that love space, that juicy space, especially in the business world where you're collaborating, you're creating and doing beautiful things, and being intimately involved with your family, because we're always dancing between love and fear.
Let's talk about that fear. You do have a different perspective on fear, and when we're in that anger and the sadness or hurt feelings, lots of fear comes up.
Absolutely. And I even come from the place that anything that's not of love is fear. So to me, anger is fear. Procrastination is fear. Arrogance is a type of fear. So one of the things that I fall to when I'm feeling scared, I can get arrogant very quickly. And when I can feel I'm in arrogant mode, I'm like, oh, Shawne, you need to open your heart. You take a breath. You're in fear mode, because when you're in this place, you will never connect with anyone. And so the dance is to be going back and forth between the two. Because if you're always in the love space, to me, you're not taking risks and stepping way outside your comfort zone. And the game is to step out of your love, fun place and go to some of that fear, like we did PBS specials with thousands of people watching. Most things that we're doing, even the TV shows and all the things we're doing right now, I'm moving back and forth between fear and love. Like, oh my gosh, am I crazy to do this? What are we doing? We're reaching millions of people now. Who the heck do I think I am? I mean, I'm constantly dancing between both. And whenever I'm in that fear space, I'm getting more masterful at loving myself up and allowing myself to be in discomfort, because we kind of talk about fear as a fart. I know it's an odd way to say it. And, it's a matter of getting comfortable with the smell, and eventually the smell goes away.
Oh, that's just lovely. And it's also the fear of what's really happening, like what ifs. So we what if ourselves, especially in our relationships, whether it be with our parents, our spouse, our bosses. And when our feelings are hurt, there we go. We what if that happens, and what if that happens, and we get stuck back in that fear again.
Yeah. Or we get so highly offended, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they said that to me. And it's so funny. I've given up my righteousness about even allowing myself to be offended. It doesn't mean that I don't feel angry or frustrated or all those things. And what I'm seeing is that I'm accountable for what I broadcast. I'm always talking about, what are you broadcasting? You're your own TV station, your own radio station. And I kind of have a funny story with one of the main tools that we use in Project Forgive. It's called Accepting the Apology You'll Never Receive. And it's a very high-level skill set that I do, whether it's at a church, whether it's in corporations. We do it all over the world. And we do it on Facebook Live a lot, too, and just thousands of people have participated in it. And can I go ahead and tell you what it is?
Please do.
Oh, you're so sweet.
Yes.
So it started with my neighbor. I have this neighbor that as soon as I saw him, I would get so annoyed, and I just go, ugh, I couldn't stand to see him. I'd be so annoyed. Like, he'd say things to me like I'd go out to the mailbox, and he'd say, good morning, Shawne, and I could just go, ugh. You know how you have some people in your life that just like, oh, my gosh, get them away from me. And then I'd say, yeah, but, Bob, it's, 6 p.m., and he'd say, yeah, I know, but you look like you just got up. He'd say those kinds of things to me, okay? And it would just drive me nuts. And knowing what I know about gossip, knowing what I know about who I'm being and that I'm at cause and who I'm being, is it didn't work for me that every time I saw this neighbor, he probably experienced me like a mean person, because as soon as I saw him, I was mad, And that's great. I can blame it on him, blah, 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 blah. And the thing is, though, I'm accountable for who I'm being. So what would happen if I actually pretended in my mind's eye that he apologized to me? He's not apologizing. He's never going to do it. And what if he said in my mind's eye something like, oh, Shawne, I'm so embarrassed. Every time I see you, the dumbest things come out of my mouth. I'm so awkward sometimes socially. And I wish I could say the right thing. And later on, I think, oh, I shouldn't have said that. I should have said this instead. And the truth is, I just really want you to like me. And will you just forgive me? Because I'm so awkward sometimes. You can even hear me soften when I say it, right?
Yes.
And so that's really it. Yeah, it is. But see, what happens in that process is I shift. I shift from anger to compassion. I'm in charge of I have a say who I'm going to be in the world. And that is one of the most masterful skills that I can think of as a communicator. Because as soon as I can soothe myself, what's happened over time, this was several years ago, like 3-5 years ago. Now I hug them. I love them dearly, because as soon as I started shifting with them, believe me, they never apologized, okay? My neighbor Bob never apologized. And as I started shifting, he started getting more and more comfortable with me and my presence, and could be safe with me, because it's hard to be safe when someone's feeling angry all the time, And so the bottom line is, the more comfortable I get in my skin, the more access I give others to be comfortable with me. And that's when the love really starts to spread. It's a powerful skill.
It is a powerful skill, and I do actually mention something very similar to that about apologies, how we are so desperate to be right that we will, I call them right diers in my book. I say, who wants to be a right dier? You'll die, you still might be right, but that doesn't solve anything. And you have to forgive whether you're right or whether you're wrong, whether you're both right or wrong. And what that does is it does exactly what you said in beautiful story. I was actually going to ask you if we had the same neighbor. So
everybody listening knows somebody like that.
Are you sure we don't live near each other?
Yeah.
So my neighbor, who were no longer neighbors, actually kept an attorney on retainer so he could send angry notes to people. And he was just ready to pounce on anyone. And I just, of course, healthy boundaries, tried to stay kind of out of ever getting one of those letters. But I was always trying to set myself up in a calm and helpful way. Lots of times I got shot down and I would leave kind of angry. But over time, all of a sudden he showed up and he wanted to discuss cars for some reason. And he was very polite and very nice. And it just threw me for a loop. And by the time we moved, we were very, very happy to know that we were the one neighbor on the whole street that never received an attorney letter.
Oh, that's a funny story.
Yeah. So, forgiveness.
Yeah, and a beautiful one. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's cute because I think as your story, people get under our skin sometimes, and we just let that fester, don't we?
We do. Absolutely.
We do. But when it comes to deep family relationships, and you talked about being a survivor, and I come from an alcoholic home and very tough family situation, and to overcome that, when forgiveness comes to your mind, when you think about family, what's the first thing you think about?
A process and set boundaries and calm yourself in the storm.
That was short and sweet, and I loved it because I got every single thing of those. I understand that exactly. And boundaries are okay because they're loving boundaries.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you come from families like ours, there never were any boundaries.
No.
So to actually set boundaries is actually a violation of the family system. And once you start doing that, people are going to wig out. It's kind of like when you put money in the vending machine and you expect your Reese's peanut butter cup to come out, and you put money in and nothing comes out, so then you put another dollar in and nothing still comes out, and then you bang the machine. That's how people are when you set boundaries, when you've been doing things a certain way forever. They're used to it coming out or it working, so they react pretty intensely emotionally. And you just stay the course. I know. I get it. And you know what? I'm still not comfortable with that, Mom. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry I've disappointed you. I get it. And you know what? I need to do this for me. Oh, I got it. That makes perfect sense, Mom. I get it. And this is what I need.
Right.
You know, I wish I could do that for you. I wish I could be that for you. You deserve it. It takes time to be able to do those things.
Thank you for giving examples, because I think lots of times we just say put boundaries, but we don't exactly put words to that. So thank you for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
You are so welcome.
Forgiveness touched your life personally, and I watched the trailer for the documentary, and I was teary, just teary. Yeah. And could you talk about that amazing experience and what you got to see happen in somebody else's life?
Yeah, and you probably know this too, Reverend Misty, that the topic you need to teach is the something you need, and you just become very masterful at it. You know, like right. I would imagine you've had so much to forgive, and you continuously have to forgive things. Is this true for you?
Well, I am married. I have 6 children. There's things. I work in a profession. I run across people daily. So, yes, I always say, you know, your mom told you to keep clean underwear in case of a car accident. I would say keep on clean underwear and forgive daily.
Yeah, I understand. I get it. Anyways, one of the things that happened is one of our dear friends, his family was killed by a drunk driver. And my kids babysat those kids, and the wife who was killed, Judy, she was my husband's business coach. So as you can imagine, the day that the family, the mother and 2 sons, were killed from our good friend Gary, we knew that this was it was just devastating, you know. Mm. And what the twist, if you could use that word, was that later that day we also found out that the man who killed them is also a dear family friend. Mm. So it's like it was mind-blowing that day. I remember my daughter saying to me, "Oh, my gosh, Mom, you got to do a movie on this." And I just got prickles up my arm. I'm like, these families are both amazing. They really are. And to have this occur in this position that I'm in, to see both sides of this and, you know, just all the pieces of it, and hold travesty at the same time, and knowing someone's amazing at the same time, and they caused a travesty. And the 2 met in jail, and there's no words for it. It's watching Gary forgive Tom and be concerned about him forgiving others, watching Gary evolve over the years, the one that lost his family, and having to deal with graduation parties and different phases where his children. So he's constantly in that place of forgiving at different levels. And I really do believe forgiveness is such a personal journey and something you repeatedly do. And it's just been this beautiful, beautiful process. And out of it, we decided to make a documentary. And that's how Project Forgive got born. And we did a video. Of course, I had my own failures doing the video. And the 3rd video finally went viral. And we raised a lot of money and got most of it done. And then we started a nonprofit because we started reaching millions and millions of people on social media. And that included, you know, in this journey, we started the nonprofit. We're non-religious, we're non-partisan. We're really about bringing people together and dispelling the myths of forgiveness. And what does it mean to forgive? I especially like to talk about anger personally, because we are so emotionally opposed to anger, and anger is such an important part of forgiveness. And watching this evolve over time and getting endorsed by Archbishop Desmond Tutu. Last year, we were nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize.
I was going to mention that soon, because the moment that must have happened. That's, you know, you can only think of so many moments in your life. That's like your children being born, getting married, children being born, a project coming to fruition. But that moment for you must have been just a watershed moment.
You know, it's so funny, and it's a process just like forgiveness, because as a team, we're just stepping into that. It's so big. Like, how do you be that? I don't know yet, because it's not been quite a year, you know. And it's like, okay, what does that mean for us? Who should we be being? What should we be generating or causing to allow us to be in this honor? Because it really is a pretty huge honor.
It says a lot about the goal and your work, and I know your work has touched me, and I work in forgiveness. You wouldn't think I would be needing to know anything new, but the point is everybody's views, and you take it all so in and with a smile on your face. You're very warm and lovely just through social media. So all of it, and then to live through, and you were perfect to say that you got to see both perspectives. Gary, who lost his family, and then the person that caused the accident. And so you could see that we're not all bad. We're not all good. Stuff happens. Bad stuff happens to good people. And you get to see where forgiveness can really be the link between love and healing. What a miraculous time for everyone.
Yeah, it is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And you probably get this too about like dispelling those myths. There's so many myths about forgiveness. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Oh, exactly. I have a big talk on myths and misconceptions of forgiveness, and I actually worked with 2 physicians in my career before I became a reverend that lost both of their children to murder. One was a young child, and the other one was a young adult. And both of them handled from outwardly very differently. And forgiveness doesn't mean you'll ever forget. I think that's I always say that's the one myth that was chiseled on some stone somewhere. And, we're supposed to forgive and forget. And I can't ever imagine those 2 wonderful physicians ever forgetting their children were murdered.
Yeah.
No. But did they soften and use their pain and their sadness to find even more love in their life? Yes, they did. And I saw some stuff on Gary, and I was deeply touched by he talked about understanding that it was now up to him to have a reaction. He was in charge of his reaction. Yeah. And what a wise man. And I don't know if even being trained in forgiveness or many wonderful people I know could have the reaction that he chose. And that's another thing, it's very much a choice that he chose to do.
Yeah. Sometimes too, and it took him a while to get there. And then sometimes we say, I'm going to take the high road. And I even think the high road is a myth.
Oh, yeah.
To me, you probably can. I don't hear a whole lot of forgiveness people talk about this. Like, I'm going to you go high, I go low. You hear these different things. And it's like, no, we're on the same level. We're in the same game. And if I take the high road, it's actually putting me in righteousness. It's actually putting me in a place of arrogance, which actually equals fear. And there is no fear in forgiveness. There is only love. And when you cross over into that place of forgiveness, it doesn't mean you go there and you stay there. You might feel very forgiving about being an incest survivor, and then here it is on Sunday night, and a certain smell can trigger that pain, and then you're right back into anger. So it's a very dynamic process. And even Gary will talk about the dynamic process of that, especially the anger, because to me the anger is so beautiful and so important. And a lot of times in culture, we equate anger with violence, which is hogwash, because we've never learned how to appropriately be angry, how to say, I'm really angry, I need to take a breath right now because I don't want to say something I'm going to regret, and I just need to be really ticked off right now. So I'll talk to you in a little while, honey. I'll come back in about an hour. Like, that's appropriate anger. Right. We don't even know what appropriate anger is.
I think there's definitely a good talk right there. Appropriate anger would be a great workshop. And, we'll bring in some punching bags, and then we'll talk about taking a walk and what that really means, and getting some space, and that it's okay to be angry. And I also, in forgiveness, it doesn't mean you'll never be angry again or sad again or wish the situation wasn't different, wanting that time machine to go back and change the past somehow. Some magical TARDIS from Doctor Who shows up and you get to go fix it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't happen. I am so overwhelmed by talking to you. Actually, I was quite teary when you were talking about the anger. And so thank you so much for sharing that. And I also agree that everybody has their unique path. And whether they're discovering that anger is okay, that they can forgive, where love comes into it, because a lot of people think that if I love them, I'm not supposed to be angry.
Yeah.
And that's just not the case. You can forgive and love with a 10-foot pole. Just step back and take a bird's eye view, and then just like with your neighbor, a little empathy can rushing in for other people's pain, and you can kind of come on the same level. Exactly. We're not taking the high road. We're doing this together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes you do it together without them even knowing.
Well, that's another thing about forgiveness, isn't it? It's not about the other person knowing. Yes, exactly. Well, your work is so, so important, and I can't even tell you how excited I am that you've reached such a wide audience, that your documentary is coming out, and I will shout it from the rooftops. I will gossip all over the place about your documentary.
So and everything we do is free. Everything we do is free. So the documentary will be free. You'll be able to download it. And we'll flag when it's coming. We're actually negotiating a TV show right now and a big mission at Project Forgive. I know, it's really cool stuff. That's why the documentary hasn't been settled, because it might be part of the TV deal. I don't quite know. And here's what's so wonderful about forgiveness is I have so much more ease and flow in my life that I just trust how things are going to evolve. I haven't, it's just kind of cool. And our missions are focused on kids at risk. So we've got a pretty large grant from the Pittsburgh Foundation. So our money comes from grants from philanthropists and from large corporations that give to this cause for kids at risk in the judicial system. And then our other one is health. We talk a lot about health, both physical and emotional health. And because when we struggle with forgiveness, sometimes we don't take really great care of ourselves. So that's a big mission of ours.
Especially when we're struggling with self-forgiveness. We almost feel like we deserve to not feel well or be well or take care of ourselves because we feel so sad and mad at ourselves that we don't forgive ourselves, and so we kind of, our bodies show it.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining me today on the Forgiveness Solution. We will be watching you. I will be talking about you and all the good gossip, and can't be more excited about all the things that are coming into your life with beautiful flow.
And I wish you so much success with your book, The Forgiveness Solution. It's just so exquisite, and I'm so, so, so happy for you and love your mission as well, Reverend Misty.
Thank you. And anybody who's listening, again, if you want to find me, it's revmisty.com. And just like Dr. Shawne mentioned, my book is out there. Please pick it up. It's The Forgiveness Solution, the step-by-step process to let it go. All major religions and society agree forgiveness is a great idea, but no one tells us how. Well, I put the how into an algorithm and put the algorithm into a book just for you. Have a blessed day, and thank you so much.
I wish you bluebirds in the spring to hear your song, a song to sing, and then a kiss more than this. I wish you love.